The night was heavy with silence, not the soft, peaceful kind, but the kind that presses down on your chest, making it hard to breathe. Emily Carter stood in her living room in Denver, staring at the shattered picture frame on the floor. Her fingers shook as she picked it up. Inside was the photo of her wedding day, her wide smile, her husband Mark's hand wrapped around her waist, and just over her shoulder, her sister Claire grinning like she owned the world. Emily's jaw locked tight. Her lips trembled, but her eyes burned with a storm. She dropped the frame. Glass cracked louder this time, and Emily's reflection split into fragments. Her fists tightened until her knuckles turned white. "Why? Why would you do this to me?" she whispered, her voice raw, throat scratching as if the words cut on the way out. Her chest heaved, shoulders rising and falling fast. Anger and pain tangled inside her like barbed wire. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. Life in the neighborhood went on as if nothing had happened. But inside that house, Emily's world had just collapsed. And deep within the ruins of her heart, something new was being born. Not forgiveness, not despair, but fire. Her husband thought he had broken her. Her sister thought she had won. But they didn't know Emily Carter. This was only the beginning.
Emily Carter grew up in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. She wasn't rich, but her family had always been close. Sunday dinners around the oak table, laughter echoing through the house, and her mom's famous apple pie. Those moments lived in her bones. Her younger sister, Claire, had always been different. Beautiful, sharp, magnetic. People noticed her the moment she walked into a room. Emily loved her, admired her even, though sometimes Claire's charm felt like a shadow Emily could never quite step out of. Still, they were sisters. They shared clothes, secrets, late-night talks with flashlights under the blanket. Emily never once imagined that Claire would one day become the sharpest knife in her back. But before all that, life was good. Emily met Mark Carter at a college football game. He wasn't the quarterback or the loudest guy in the stands. He was the one who offered her his jacket when the wind got cold. His smile was warm and his eyes carried something steady, something safe. They dated for 2 years. Mark brought flowers to her dorm when she was stressed. He called her every night, even when he was tired from work. When he asked her to marry him under a sky filled with fireworks on the 4th of July, Emily cried so hard she could barely say yes. Their wedding day was picture perfect. Emily wore white lace, her mom dabbed tears from her eyes, and Claire, her maid of honor, stood by her side in pale blue satin. The photographer caught Claire holding Emily's hand, whispering something that made Emily laugh. "You're glowing," Claire had said, grinning wide. "This is your fairy tale." And for a while, it was. Emily and Mark bought a cozy house in a quiet neighborhood. Maple trees lined the street, kids rode bikes in the cul-de-sac, and every autumn the sidewalks were buried under golden leaves. Emily loved the smell of fresh-cut grass, the way the porch light flickered at night, the rhythm of suburban peace. She worked as a school counselor, helping kids find confidence and hope. Mark was in real estate, always dressed sharp, always shaking hands and sealing deals. They built routines. Saturday morning pancakes, Sunday hikes in the Rockies, lazy Friday nights with takeout and movies. Life wasn't flashy, but it was theirs. And Claire was still part of all that. She came over often. Too often, maybe. At first it felt natural. She was single, working as a bartender downtown, chasing dreams but never catching them. Emily welcomed her in. "Stay for dinner," Emily would say, pulling another plate from the cabinet. Claire would smile, flipping her hair over her shoulder, eyes sparkling. "You sure I'm not intruding?" Of course she wasn't. Or so she thought. There were moments, small ones, when Emily noticed something strange. Like the way Mark's laugh changed when Claire crafted a joke. It wasn't the quick, polite laugh he gave to strangers. It was softer, more alive. or the way Claire's hand lingered on his shoulder just a second too long when she passed by. Emily pushed the thoughts aside. She trusted them. She trusted her. When her mom got sick the year before, it was Claire who sat with Emily in the hospital waiting room. Claire who squeezed her hand and whispered, "We'll get through this." That kind of loyalty couldn't hide something ugly, right? So Emily ignored the tightness in her chest when Mark and Claire shared private jokes. She brushed off the sting when Claire texted Mark little memes and inside references. She told herself, they're just close, that's all. Mark still kissed her goodnight. He still told her she was beautiful in the morning when her hair was messy and her eyes were puffy. He still held her hand at church, fingers interlocked, like nothing could break them. So Emily believed. She needed to believe. But life has a way of whispering the truth before it screams it. One Saturday in spring, Emily hosted a backyard barbecue. Friends and neighbors filled the yard with chatter, kids splashed in the inflatable pool, and Mark manned the grill with a spatula in hand. Claire arrived in a sundress, sunglasses perched on her head, carrying a bottle of wine. Emily noticed it again, the quick glance between them, Claire brushing past Mark to help with the burgers, his small smile, like a secret passed without words. Her stomach knotted. She looked away, focusing on the laughter of children, on the smell of smoky barbecue, but the seed was planted. Doubt had taken root. Later that night, when everyone was gone and the house was quiet, Emily sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her reflection in the dresser mirror. Her face looked tired, older. She rubbed her temples and whispered, almost to herself, "Maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe I'm just tired." Mark slid into bed beside her, pulling her close. His arms wrapped around her like always. She felt his warmth, his steady breathing. She wanted to sink into it, to forget the unease clawing at her chest. She closed her eyes. She chose trust. But deep down, something had shifted. The stage was set. The cracks in her world were forming. And soon, very soon, the shattering would come. The first crack came on a rainy Thursday night. Emily was folding laundry in the living room, the TV humming softly in the background. Mark's phone buzzed on the coffee table. Normally, she wouldn't have touched it. They had trust, or at least they used to. But something in her gut twisted. Her hands paused mid-fold, gripping a cotton t-shirt too tight. The buzzing stopped, then started again. A text notification lit up the screen. Her chest tightened. The name glowing on the display made her heart drop like a stone. Claire. Emily's lips pressed into a thin line. Her palms grew damp as she unlocked the phone. She told herself it was nothing, just a quick message between sibling-in-law, just dinner plans or a silly joke. But when the screen opened, her breath caught in her throat. The message wasn't silly. It wasn't harmless. "Last night was amazing. I can still feel you. Can't stop thinking about it. Heart?" Emily's vision blurred. Her hands shook so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Her mouth went dry and her body turned cold, even as her face burned hot. Her heart pounded so loud it drowned out the TV. She scrolled. More messages, more lies. "Can't wait until we're alone again. She'll never know. I need you, Claire. You're the only one who gets me." Emily's stomach lurched. She covered her mouth with her hand, as if trying to push the nausea back down. Her eyes filled with tears. But behind them, behind the hurt, something else flickered. Rage. Her jaw clenched. Her nostrils flared. She gripped the phone like it was a weapon. "How could you?" When the front door opened, Emily snapped her head up. Mark walked in, shaking rain from his jacket, humming under his breath. He looked so normal, so casual, like he hadn't just set fire to their marriage. Emily stood frozen, fists tight at her sides. Her chest rose and fell fast, like a runner at the end of a race. Mark glanced at her and smiled faintly. "Hey, Em, everything okay?" Her lips trembled. She didn't answer. Instead, she held up his phone, the glow of the screen reflected in her wet eyes. The color drained from his face. His smile collapsed. His lips parted, but no words came out. Emily's voice was low, broken, sharp as glass. I read it. All of it. Beat of silence. Mark's shoulders slumped. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. He stammered. "Emily, I can explain." Explain! Her laugh was bitter, hollow. Tears streaked her cheeks as she stepped closer. "You slept with my sister. My sister, Mark!" Her voice cracked. She pressed her palm against her chest as if trying to hold her heart together. Her knees wobbled, but fury kept her upright. Mark reached toward her, his face twisted with guilt. It just happened. I didn't mean? Her eyes blazed. "Do you know what I've given you, what I trusted you with, and you throw it away for her?" Mark's hands trembled at his sides. He looked small, cornered. "I'm sorry. I didn't want you to find out like this." Sharp scoff. Emily's jaw tightened. She shook her head slowly, a cold laugh escaping her lips. "Didn't want me to find out? So what, you were just gonna keep sneaking around, keep lying to my face while you—" Her voice broke. She turned away, covering her face with both hands, sobbing into her palms. Her shoulders shook, her knees finally buckling. She sank onto the couch, gasping through tears. Mark crouched near her, reaching again. "Please, Em, I love you. You're my wife. It's you I want. She was a mistake." Emily snapped her head toward him, her eyes red and wild. She spat the words like venom. "A mistake doesn't last for months." Mark flinched. His eyes darted, searching for something to say, some way to soften the blow. But there was nothing. The truth was too loud, too clear. Emily's body shook as she grabbed a pillow and hurled it at him. Her voice was raw, ripping from her throat. "Get out! Get out of my house, Mark! Out of my life!" Mark froze, stunned. "Emily, please!" Her scream pierced the air. "I said, get out!" Her fist slammed against the couch cushions. Her face twisted in anguish. Tears poured down, but her fury blazed hotter than her pain. Mark stumbled back, eyes wide, lips trembling. He grabbed his keys and backed toward the door. For a moment he lingered, his mouth opening like he wanted to say something else. But Emily's glare, her fiery, broken glare, made him stop. His shoulders slumped. Without another word, he turned and walked out into the rain. The door slammed shut. Emily collapsed forward, burying her face in her hands. Her sobs filled the empty house. Her body curled tight, rocking back and forth on the couch. Long, shaky exhale. Hours later, when the tears slowed, Emily sat in silence. Her face was swollen, her eyes red. She stared at the broken picture frame still lying on the floor. The wedding photo inside mocked her, grinning faces of a past that was dead now. Her fist tightened again, her lips pressed into a thin, trembling line. Claire. Her sister. That betrayal cut deeper than Mark's. Family wasn't supposed to do this. Blood wasn't supposed to poison you. Emily's reflection in the dark window stared back at her. She whispered, voice hoarse but steady. "They took everything from me, but I swear they'll regret it." And in that moment, the grief in her chest hardened into something else, something sharp, something unbreakable. Revenge had been born. Next, I'll continue with Downfall and Struggle, where Emily hits bottom emotionally, financially, and socially, while Mark and Claire seem to thrive. Do you want me to make their cruelty subtle and smug, like gaslighting and flaunting their happiness, while pretending innocence? Or blatant and ruthless, like public humiliation and openly mocking her?
The days after the truth came out blurred together like a storm. Emily barely slept. When she closed her eyes, she saw them. Mark's guilty face, Claire's smiling one. Her body ached from crying. Her chest felt like it carried a stone that never lifted. She stopped cooking. She stopped opening the curtains. Her once tidy home grew messy. Dishes piled up in the sink, half-folded laundry sat abandoned in baskets. The smell of stale coffee clung to the air. Her coworkers at the school noticed the change. "Emily, are you okay?" the principal asked gently one morning. Emily forced a smile, her lips trembling. "Yeah, just, rough week." But she wasn't okay. She was falling apart. And Mark and Claire? They didn't hide. One Saturday, Emily drove to the grocery store. She hadn't even brushed her hair. It hung in messy strands around her pale face. Her hoodie swallowed her small frame. She kept her eyes low, pushing the cart, trying to just get through. Then she froze. 2 aisles away, Mark and Claire stood together, laughing, smiling, holding hands. Emily's breath hitched. Her throat tightened. She clutched the cart handle so hard her knuckles whitened. Her lips parted, but no words came. They saw her. Claire tilted her head, her smile not fading, almost smug. Mark's face tensed, but he didn't let go of Claire's hand. Emily's jaw quivered. Her eyes burned. She spun her cart around and left the store without buying a thing. That night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The silence of the house was crushing. She curled on her side, hugging a pillow, tears sliding down into the fabric. Her wedding ring still sat on the nightstand. She couldn't bring herself to throw it away. Not yet. Her phone buzzed on the dresser. A message from Claire. Emily's brows furrowed as she picked it up. Her stomach flipped. "Emily, I never wanted it to happen this way. Please try to understand. Mark makes me happy. You'll find someone too." Emily's hand shook. Her face twisted in rage as she typed back furiously, her tears splashing on the screen. "You're my sister. You destroyed my life. Don't you dare talk to me again." She hurled the phone onto the bed and buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook, her cries muffled into the pillow. But the cruelty didn't stop. At family gatherings, Claire showed up with Mark like nothing was wrong. Her parents shifted uncomfortably, not knowing where to stand, what to say. Emily saw the pity in their eyes, the awkward glances. Claire would lean into Mark, whisper something, then laugh. Emily sat at the edge of the table, quiet, her hands clenched in her lap, her nails dug into her palms until they left half moons. She forced her lips into a straight line, but her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Claire leaned across the table once, voice soft, like she was trying to be gentle. I hope one day you'll forgive me. You deserve to be happy too." Emily's fork scraped hard against her plate. Her jaw locked. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Weeks passed. Bills piled up. Mark had always handled most of the finances, and without him, Emily stumbled. She sat at the kitchen table late at night, papers spread out, rubbing her temples as her eyes blurred with exhaustion. The numbers never added up. Meanwhile, Mark and Claire posted photos online, smiling at restaurants, hiking the trails Emily used to walk with him. At a Broncos game, Claire wearing Mark's jacket like it belonged to her. Each picture was a knife. Each caption, "feeling blessed," twisted it deeper. Emily's body began to change. She lost weight. Her skin grew pale. Her hair hung lifeless. In the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Her once bright eyes looked hollow, ringed with shadows. Her friends called less. Some didn't know what to say. Some quietly chose Claire's side, lured by her charm. Emily felt abandoned, isolated, invisible. One evening, she tried to cook herself dinner, pasta, her comfort food. She stood in the kitchen, wooden spoon in hand, stirring slowly. Her mind wandered. She pictured Mark at their table, laughing. She pictured Claire stealing glances at him across the plates. Her grip on the spoon tightened until it snapped in her hand. The pasta boiled over, hissing against the stove. Emily dropped the broken spoon and fell to her knees, pressing her forehead against the cool cabinet door. Her body shook with sobs, but somewhere inside her pain, a seed was still alive. Not hope, not yet, but something harder, something sharper. Each humiliation, each cruel smile, each sleepless night was feeding it. One afternoon, she sat at a cafe, staring blankly at a cup of coffee she couldn't drink. She overheard two women at the next table whispering, "Isn't that Emily Carter?" Poor thing, her husband left her for her sister? Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? I'd never show my face again. Her cheeks burned. She looked down at her lap, her nails digging into her thighs. Her eyes welled, but she bit down hard on her lip, holding the tears back. She rose, leaving the untouched cup behind, her back stiff, her chin trembling. She walked out into the Denver air, the sky gray and heavy. She lifted her face to the wind. Tears slid down, but this time, behind them, there was something new. Her jaw set, her shoulders squared. They thought they had broken her, but they were wrong. Emily Carter was not done. Not yet.
The lowest point came one night when Emily sat on the bathroom floor, knees pulled to her chest, mascara streaked down her cheeks. She stared at her reflection in the cabinet mirror above the sink. Her eyes were swollen, her skin pale, her lips trembling. For a long time, she just breathed, shaky, uneven, like each inhale hurt. Then slowly, her reflection seemed to shift. Not literally, but in her mind. She saw herself not as the broken woman on the floor, but as the girl she used to be. The girl who laughed under fireworks, who believed in love, who walked down the aisle with fire in her heart. Her fists clenched, her jaw set. "No more," she whispered to herself, voice hoarse but firm. "I won't let them win." That was the moment the rise began. The next morning, Emily pulled her hair back, scrubbed her face, and forced herself outside. She went for a run, even though her lungs burned and her legs ached. Each step pounded against the pavement like a drumbeat of defiance. Day after day, she ran further. She lifted small weights in her garage, her arms trembling at first, but steadying with time. She signed up for yoga classes, even when her body felt stiff and weak. Her reflection began to change. Her face grew sharper, her eyes regained focus, her shoulders squared again. She no longer saw only the ghost of betrayal, she saw strength returning. Her career came next. At the school, Emily asked for more responsibilities. She stayed late, mentoring students, creating new programs, giving everything she had. The principal noticed, parents noticed. Soon, local newspapers were writing about her work. Counselor launches new program to help students build confidence. A small headline, but to Emily, it was proof. She was more than what Mark and Claire had reduced her to. When a regional education board offered her a position as director of student programs, she accepted without hesitation. The salary was double, the office was hers. Her impact spread far beyond one school. Now she was shaping futures across Denver. Every success added bricks to the wall she was building between her and the past. Her personal life grew too. She joined a book club, started volunteering at a community center, reconnected with old friends who truly cared. At first she was nervous, her smile fragile, her laughter rusty, but week by week it grew easier. One night, she found herself laughing so hard at a friend's joke that tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time from joy, not pain. She pressed her hand to her heart, surprised at the sound of her own laughter, warm and alive. Mark and Claire, meanwhile, flaunted their life. Social media showed dinners, vacations, smiles, but when Emily ran into them at a charity event one evening, her first time seeing them in months, the cracks showed. She walked in wearing a sleek navy dress, her hair styled, her eyes bright with confidence. Conversations paused when she entered. People greeted her warmly, congratulating her on her career achievements. Claire's smile faltered when she saw her. Mark's eyes flickered with something he hadn't shown in months. Regret.
Emily didn't tremble. She didn't cry. She smiled politely, lifted her glass of champagne, and walked right past them. It wasn't a scene of screaming or tears. It was quiet, powerful. They had expected to see a broken woman. Instead, they saw someone thriving, someone out of their reach. But Emily wasn't done. She began to speak at conferences, telling her story of resilience, not the betrayal, but the rise. She talked about rebuilding after loss, about finding strength in the ashes. People listened, people clapped. She inspired. Her inbox filled with invitations, her name spread across networks. She even landed a book deal, her memoir titled Rising from Ruins. It became a bestseller. And as she signed copies at bookstores, cameras flashing, people thanking her for giving them hope, Emily thought of Claire and Mark. She didn't need to send them messages. She didn't need to scream at them anymore. Her life itself was the message. Still, she planned one final touch, one quiet act of revenge that would seal everything. When her parents hosted Thanksgiving, Emily arrived confident and glowing, bringing a bottle of wine. The family was gathered around the table. Claire and Mark were there too, holding hands, smiles plastered on their faces. The air was tense, everyone unsure how it would unfold. Emily sat tall, her smile calm, her eyes steady. Throughout dinner, relatives asked her about her new book, her work, her travels. Their pride was obvious. Claire tried to add stories of her own life, but the room didn't light up for her the same way. Mark sat quieter than usual, his gaze flickering often toward Emily, as if haunted. At one point, Claire leaned close, her voice low, syrupy sweet. "You've changed, Em." Emily's lips curved into a small, calm smile. Her eyes locked with Claire's, strong and unshaken. "Yes," she said softly, "I have." That was all. No screaming, no accusations, just undeniable proof that Emily had risen while they had sunk into the life they'd chosen. And everyone at that table felt it. That night, Emily walked out into the crisp November air, her coat pulled tight around her shoulders. She breathed deep, her lips curving into the faintest smile. The revenge wasn't in destroying them. The revenge was in succeeding without them, in showing them they never had the power to break her forever. Emily Carter had won.
The ballroom glowed with golden light. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above rows of round tables dressed in white linen. Waiters moved gracefully between desks and suits and gowns. It was Denver's annual Community Leadership Gala, the biggest event of the year. And tonight, Emily Carter was the keynote speaker. She stood backstage, holding her notes loosely in her hand. Her pulse raced, but not from fear, from power, from knowing where she had started, broken on her bathroom floor, and where she stood now. Her friend and colleague whispered, "You've got this, Emily." She nodded, her lips curving into a determined smile. The announcer's voice boomed, "Please welcome Director of Student Programs and author of the best-selling memoir, Rising from Ruins, Emily Carter." Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. Emily stepped onto the stage. She walked with her shoulders back, chin lifted, eyes alive with strength. The microphone waited at the podium. She placed her notes down, but she didn't look at them. She looked at the audience. And in the middle of that audience, Mark and Claire. They were seated near the front, invited because Mark's real estate firm had sponsored a table. Claire wore a glittering silver gown, her smile painted wide but stiff. Mark's jaw was tight, his hand wrapped around his glass a little too firmly. Emily's gaze flickered over them, cool and calm, before returning to the crowd. "Good evening," she began, her voice strong, smooth. "2 years ago, I thought my life was over. I had lost everything I believed I could never live without. My marriage, my trust, my sense of self." A hush fell across the room. People leaned forward. Emily's lips trembled slightly, but not from weakness, from raw truth.
Her eyes shone under the lights. I was broken. I sat in the dark, thinking I couldn't go on. But what I didn't know, she paused, her hand pressing gently against her chest. What I didn't know was that sometimes losing everything is the beginning of finding who you really are. Soft murmurs of agreement from the audience. Mark shifted in his seat. Claire crossed her arms, her smile thinning. Emily continued, her voice rising with passion. I rebuilt, piece by piece, day by day. I found strength in helping others, in believing in myself again. And now I stand here, not as a victim, but as proof that no betrayal, no heartbreak, no loss can define the rest of your life unless you let it. Applause swelled, echoing against the high ceilings. Emily's eyes scanned the room. She saw admiration, inspiration, and in Mark's eyes, shame, and Claire's, anger masked with fake poise. She leaned closer to the mic, her voice soft but sharp as glass. Success is not about who stays by your side when life is easy. Success is about who you become when life tries to break you. And tonight, I want to dedicate this message to anyone who has ever been left behind. You are not broken. You are rising. The crowd erupted into a standing ovation. People clapped, whistled, even wiped tears from their eyes. Emily smiled, her chest rising proudly, her eyes glistening. Mark sat frozen. Claire clapped stiffly, her face tight. Cameras caught their discomfort, their forced smiles. Whispers rippled across the tables. Isn't that her ex-husband? And the sister? Oh my God! Mark's ears turned red. Claire's cheeks flushed as people around them connected the dots. The public mask they had worn for so long began to crumble. Emily stepped down from the stage, people reaching to shake her hand, congratulate her. She smiled warmly at each one, moving through the crowd like a queen among allies. When she reached her table, Mark stood. His eyes darted nervously, his voice low, urgent. Emily, can we talk? Her eyes met his, calm, cold. There's nothing left to say, Mark. He flinched, swallowing hard. Claire tugged his arm, her voice sharp but hushed. Sit down, Mark. But the damage was done. Everyone had seen. Everyone knew. The powerful real estate man and the glittering socialite sister reduced to whispers and pity stares. Emily walked past them without a pause, her smile never faltering. She didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to lash out. Her success, her grace, her survival, it was louder than any scream. That night, as she stood on the balcony outside the ballroom, the Denver skyline glowing before her, Emily let herself breathe. The cold air filled her lungs, the city lights twinkled like stars. She closed her eyes, tears welling. But these were not tears of grief. They were tears of release, of victory. She had risen, and the world had witnessed it.
The whispers that started that night spread quickly. In Denver's close-knit community of professionals, secrets didn't stay buried for long. People connected the dots, the ex-husband who cheated, the sister who betrayed. And suddenly, Mark and Claire weren't the golden couple anymore. Mark's real estate firm took a hit. Clients hesitated to trust a man whose name carried scandal. His once polished smile no longer charmed so easily. Behind closed doors, business partners questioned his judgment. Claire, too, began to feel the shift. Friends who once flocked to her parties now declined her invitations. Her social media posts, once flooded with likes, now drew subtle comments. Wow, bold move, dating your sister's husband. Some things can't be bought with a smile. The cracks deepened. Meanwhile, Emily's star only rose higher. Her book stayed on bestseller lists for months. She traveled to cities across the U.S., speaking at universities, community centers, even television talk shows. Cameras captured her calm poise, her steady smile, her words that reached deep into people's hearts. One morning, she stood in a New York studio, bright lights shining on her, as the host leaned forward. "Emily, your story has touched millions. If you could say one thing to the people who hurt you, what would it be?" She paused, her eyes soft but unflinching. She smiled, gently. "I would say thank you, because without the pain, I wouldn't have found my strength." The audience clapped. The host blinked, moved. Cameras zoomed in on her serene expression. And across the country, Mark and Claire couldn't avoid seeing her face on TV screens, her name in headlines. At home in Denver, Emily's life blossomed. She moved into a new apartment downtown, modern, filled with light, decorated with bookshelves and plants. She adopted a golden retriever named Max, whose wagging tail and warm eyes filled the quiet spaces of her life. Evenings weren't lonely anymore. She had friends around her, laughter at her table, and a heart no longer heavy with betrayal. She even began dating again, slowly, cautiously, a kind man she met through her volunteer work. His eyes were steady, his laugh easy, his presence gentle. For the first time in years, Emily allowed herself to hope for love again. But love was no longer the center of her story. She was. The final confrontation came, not with fire, but with calm. It was a spring afternoon when she ran into Claire at a local cafe. Claire looked different, tired. Her once perfect hair was duller, her makeup forced. She spotted Emily and hesitated before walking over, coffee cup trembling slightly in her hand. "Emily?" she said softly, her voice strained. Emily looked up from her laptop. Her posture was straight, her face calm, her eyes steady. She gave a polite nod. "Claire." For a long moment, they just stood there. Sisters, but not. Blood connected them, but betrayal had cut deeper than any bond could mend. Claire's lips pressed together, her eyes glistening. "I didn't know it would end up like this. Mark, things aren't—" She stopped, her voice breaking. Emily closed her laptop slowly, folding her hands on top of it. Her expression didn't soften, but it didn't harden either. "You made your choice." Claire's jaw quivered. She looked down, ashamed, her shoulders slumping. "I lost my sister," she whispered. Emily's throat tightened, but her face stayed composed. She stood, lifting her bag over her shoulder. She looked Claire in the eyes, really looked, and spoke quietly, firmly. "No, Claire, you threw her away." And with that, Emily walked out of the cafe, sunlight spilling across her as the door swung shut behind her. Months later, Mark called. His voice was shaky, almost desperate. "Emily, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I lost everything. I see now what I—" Emily cut him off gently. "Mark, I don't need your apology." Her voice was calm, almost kind. "What you did will never define me. I've moved on. You should too." There was silence on the line, then a quiet, broken sigh. Emily ended the call, setting the phone down with steady hands. She turned towards Max, who wagged his tail eagerly, waiting for their evening walk. She smiled, a real soft smile. On the anniversary of the day she discovered the betrayal, Emily sat on a park bench overlooking the mountains. The sunset painted the sky in gold and purple. She breathed deeply, her heart full. She pulled a small notebook from her bag and wrote a single line. "They thought they broke me, but they only showed me how strong I am." Her eyes glistened, but this time with peace. She closed the notebook, exhaled slowly, and leaned back, feeling the cool evening air against her face. Emily Carter was no longer a victim, no longer a woman defined by betrayal. She was a survivor, a leader, a success story. And somewhere, deep in her bones, she knew the truth. The sweetest revenge is living so well that those who hurt you have no choice but to watch.